Welcome to the stage, please, Blake, Amanda, Aaron, and last, and certainly least, Krim, the Asian Avenger.
Yeah, Krim.
All right. Well, hello, MagicCon Las Vegas. We have a special panel here today because if you were not at New York Comic Con last week, we brought that panel here to you. If you were at New York Comic Con last week, I want your life. But you will also still learn more about this because we are going to dive deeper into all of the choices that went into the Secret Lair Marvel Superdrop that is coming up. We're going to talk about all the cards, all the characters. We're going to dive deep into it. And to do that are three fantastic guests who are going to introduce themselves. Let's go down the line. Amanda.
Yes. Hi, I'm Amanda Barker. I am on the Marvel team. I am on the licensed product development team. What that really means is I help amazing companies and people like Wizards of the Coast make not only the best Marvel thing they can, but the most authentic Marvel thing they can.
I'm Aaron Forsyth. I am the Vice President of Game Design at Wizards, and I was the one who got to design these new cards. I had to swoop in and take it before Rosewater even knew this existed, so that would have never happened. So yeah, thrilled to be here.
Hi, I'm Krim, also known as the Asian Avenger. I make a lot of content on MTG Goldfish. I stream on Twitch, and when I'm not doing that, I read a lot of comics. And if you haven't figured out by now, my favorite character is Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
You don't say.
Strange, even.
So we're gonna start broad and talk about the partnership, and we are gonna get narrow, and we are gonna talk about minutia. We're gonna get nerdy up here. But first, I want to talk, Amanda and Aaron. What is it about Magic and Marvel that are so well suited for each other?
Gosh, that's such a good, big question. But I think what is really unique about this partnership is that both Magic and Marvel can mean so many different things, and they cover so many different genres. Like Magic has so many different universes, tones, themes. It's really a universe within itself. Similarly, Marvel in the same way also contains so many different genres, mystery, drama, comedy. Like it makes a lot of sense to start to blend these things together that can take so many different shapes.
Yeah, I mean, for me, having been a fan of Marvel since I was a teenager, reading comics, and then obviously as the MCU came into existence, it's always just been, for me, it's a great entertainment universe, all the stories and characters for sure, but it's also been a wonderful gaming property. I've played various kinds of games involving Marvel characters for most of my life. You know, I played the RPG back in high school, minis games, card games, video games. I mean, the stories are great, but the characters and all of the different scenarios and villains and whatever translate so well into games, including Magic. Like they do so many cool things. They do all the things you would want in a game, and they do all the things you would want in a Magic card. They fly, they turn invisible, they're super strong, they're super fast, they're super smart. Like, those make for great cards, and that's why this was such a great partnership. And it's been so cool that there have been, fans of each other's stuff on both sides of the wall. Obviously, myself, Mark Rosewater, many other people at Wizards love Marvel. But there's Amanda and many others on the Marvel side, have their creds as Magic players.
Yes.
So when you're looking at Magic and Marvel, what is it like, and how do you go about taking these resonant characters, and we're going to see 5 of them in a little bit, and then how do you match them up with Magic's strategic gameplay?
Oh my gosh, I think there are some of them that were so apparent and so obvious. There are a few cards that you see that the overlay just is like a perfect fit one-to-one, that it's just a joy, and I'm sure we'll get into that in a little bit, but yeah.
Aaron?
It's pretty easy, like I said before.
Yeah.
you know, there are characters that cover all of the colors of Magic within Marvel. There's characters that cover every size of creature you would want to have in Marvel, that do all the things you would want to do in a Magic set. Good, evil. It's all there. It's all there, and it's so rich and it's so deep, and there's so many to choose from. That the hard part was, cutting it down to just 5 for this.
Yeah.
And then however many more we cut it down to when we got into making the other products. Like, it just goes on and on and on forever. So yeah, it was very easy to. In fact, it was so easy that we had stuff on the cutting room floor for this product, and then into the future as well.
Yeah, there was hardly ever a time where it was like, I wonder what we should do next. Like the ideas just filled themselves. It was so fluid.
Well, now let's get a little personal. What's it like with the teams working together? Is everybody at each other's throats? Are there a lot of arguments, chairs throwing? What's it like?
No, it's amazing. Like Aaron was saying earlier, like we are all fans. Like the Marvel team are Magic fans, and I've been playing Magic since like Innistrad, and I love Commander, and so to be able to have the opportunity to fit these two things together in a new and unique way, it's just like a dream come true. We just brainstorm what are the things that we can do that are so uniquely Marvel and so uniquely Magic. Like, what are the two things that these brands can truly do that no other sort of color combination could quite accomplish? And so to be able to like get into the nuts and bolts of what can we do that is truly powerful and unique that nobody else could really be doing is just an honor and excitement.
Yeah, and because they know Magic, it's so fun to create the stuff, whether it's card designs or illustrations, and show it to the Marvel team and have them react authentically, both as stewards of Marvel, but also as Magic players, and be like, oh my God, that's so amazing. We hear that a lot, and it's really fulfilling. I'd say it's like 90%, oh, I love that, that's amazing, that's so incredible, that captures it so well. We get about 10%, please don't do that. That's okay, like you need that. We will push every boundary we can. Magic, is a voracious content monster, so we want to do everything we can, and so we'll go right up to the line. We get most of what we want, and then every so often they're like, maybe you don't want to do that. But that's cool. That's cool. We got more.
Well, and all of this sounds like very good reasons for this to be a multi-year partnership and not just this drop.
Oh,
right?
yes. Are you kidding? The Marvel Universe is so big. There's so much stuff to touch on. There are so many characters. Like, the roster in Marvel runs so deep. There's so much lore. There's so many corners of the universe. There's so much to unpack and so many favorite characters. It's hard to really narrow it down into just one launch or one thing. So the fact that we have a multi-year partnership, it's just exciting that we get to dig into every little corner that we can find.
Yeah, this is the first UB partner we've had that we've decided to try to do more than one big product with. So another easy call, right? Just the depth of the stuff, the resonance of it. Like the superhero fantasy is both, the most grounded and approachable fantasy storytelling out there. Everyone gets it. Everyone can project themselves into these stories. But at the same time, it's so broad and so deep, and there's so many different things you can do. And that, in many ways, that sounds like what Magic is. So why not, leverage this more than once, as we'll be doing in the coming years.
All right. Who wants to see some Magic cards?
Yeah.
Yeah? All right. Well, so what we're going to go through today, it's the Secret Lair Marvel Superdrop. It goes on sale November 4th at 9 a.m., so that's coming up. It is a collection of 5 Secret Lair drops. Each one is headlined by a new mechanically unique card, a hero of the Marvel world. The headliners are mechanically unique. The support cards are going to be reprints with Magic flavoring. So Aaron, why, before we get into showing Captain America, who's going to be our first guest here, why did you go with mechanically unique cards for the headliners?
Yeah, we're calling this like Commander Starter Kit is kind of our internal catchphrase for what this product is. Each one comes with one main hero that is new, that does something that no other Magic card has ever done to try to capture the character as quintessentially as possible, and then dig through the crates of all of the stuff that Magic has had in the past that best matches that character. Some of them we could just reprint with their existing card names very easily. Some of them we kind of gave the new UB sub-names to flavor them properly. But those cards all plug in really well with the gameplay.
All right. Well, let's talk about Captain America first. Of course, we're starting with Captain America here. Aaron, talk us through the design that we're seeing on the screen here.
So this character, I think Mark Rosewater has said in his blog, as he talked about various other properties and what colors the characters would be, Captain America is kind of quintessentially a white character in Magic. Pretty much as white as you could be. It's noble, you're
He's a soldier.
Boy Scout, the best in all of us. But come on, red, white, and blue, America, we couldn't resist that. We even rearranged the mana symbols from how we normally would print them on a Jeskai card or anything else like that. And our editors were not in love with that idea, but it's like we have to do this.
I love that detail.
Okay, I'm glad you did. Right, it's like there's a lot of we have rules about how we put mana symbols on cards, and this doesn't fit the rules. And I said the secret is we make up all the rules. We can change it for this. The character is multidimensional. We can only kind of go deep on one part of him on any given card. This one's about the shield. The shield is the emblem of this character. You've seen it in comics, you've seen it in cartoons, you've seen it in movies. He throws this thing, it bounces around, it whacks all the bad guys in the head or whatever, knocks them out, and then returns to him. So that's the gameplay mechanic. Throw, you can unattach an equipment, ricochet it off 1, 2, or 3 targets, and have it come back to Captain America and reattach at the beginning of combat.
That's so sweet. Being able to attach all the numerous items across Magic's like multiverse artifacts. I think we're all really excited to equip the most random things to have Cap throw. So I, as a fan of Cap and just seeing this is every bit of flavor. Like the attention to detail here down to the reorganizing of the mana colors was brilliant. So as someone who is at the exact intersection of Magic and Marvel comics and all that kind of stuff, like this is all I could ever ask for. And the art style that's done on here looks like a perfect Alex Ross kind of like comic book cover, but just slapped onto a Magic card, and I am so here for that.
It's so gorgeous.
This is beautiful.
Well, and I think the cool thing about this too is we get to draw from so much of Marvel's history that you can definitely have a justification for a time when Cap was red, white, and blue matching up with Magic's colors.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so let's learn about Captain America's support system here. So we're going to show the cards one by one. And then we'll talk about all of them. Captain America's aid. There's some deep cuts in here that we are going to talk about. So in the Captain America drop, you'll get Captain America, you'll get these 4 cards. But there's a lot of cool nuggets in here, Amanda.
Oh, yes. It's fascinating, some of the, when we saw these all laid out, the Magic team really wanted these to encapsulate really the history of these characters, what they've come to mean, where they started, where they went, where they're going. And, I think all of us were a little bit surprised that the Invaders made the cut in the very first release. They're not the most obscure, but they're certainly a little bit of a dated team, so to speak. Sure. That one was really fun to see, and oh my gosh, some of the conversations we got into around that card specifically, I think were really funny. Namor appears on that card, if you might notice. One of the funniest conversations that we had was we saw the art, and the first draft he had like shorts, like to his knees, And the Marvel team was like, excuse me, that's not character correct. He's wearing a Speedo.
Yeah.
And the Wizards teams were like, we know, but also we're kind of worried about nudity, which is something that is a consideration when you make
He is
consumer
very small.
products.
That bathing suit was like, when you looked at it across the table, it looked like
On a card.
naked flying man.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So consumer products, when you're making these things, like there's certain things you have to think about that you wouldn't necessarily think about. That at Marvel, we're like, oh, we've made T-shirts of Namor, we've had all of this stuff in it. Like it's not a, we didn't even think about it. We're like, oh yeah, no, it's a Speedo. That's what he wears. Like that's what about it? And like at a card scale, it's going to be this big. Can we like?
Yes. So he has a slightly more modest, visible swim trunks.
But yes, that was certainly one of those days where we're like, did we just have a meeting about Namor's Speedo? Is that?
You don't have meetings about Namor Speedo all the time?
Can't say that that's
Okay.
usual, but
Is that
whatever.
a piece of merch I can buy? Namor Speedo.
It's live.
Yes, it's very important.
I am such a big fan though of that Sigarda's Aid. That is,
Yeah.
this is just the perfect card. Just because I see Sam Wilson, right? I see Cap on there, right? You see the passing of the shield over the years. I mean, when I got into Captain America, I think, funny enough, I think I got into Captain America from button mashing in Marvel vs. Capcom. All I knew, and like all I would run around and say in the playground was just, like stars and stripes, like shield throw. And through that, I then just like, well, I want to know more about the character than these two attacks that I know. So then I went and read the comics, and I think around that time is where I got into like the Ed Brubaker run and all of that. And you saw him pass the shield to Bucky. And then now you see like something that about Cap is there's always a passing of the shield, and I just really love how that plays with Sigarda's Aid as well. And I don't know, it's just really cool seeing Sam Wilson on there flying in his Cap costume and the shield, like which is also functionally a gorgeous and like a beautiful way to display the handing of equipments in Magic.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I like about these is you see Cap with other people because he's such a leader. He's always leading a team or a group or someone like that. And that's why we get the deep cut of the Invaders, because why not?
Really didn't expect that, seriously.
Yeah, so even in the middle, you have him, Black Widow, and Sam as the Falcon. That's the cast you may remember from the Winter Soldier movie, kind of who we hung out with there. We got back to the 40s within the trenches. That card was one that I suggested for this product specifically because it had that cool card name that referenced, old war, that would allow us to show him in the 40s. I didn't expect, the rest of the Invaders, including young Bucky Barnes in his ridiculous get up there. That's the guy that grows up to be the Winter Soldier, the guy in the little red and blue suit. I mean, that's crazy.
He has a rough ride.
But yeah, we get to show the whole history of the character here, right? From the 40s, the kind of modern comics age, and then the passing of the shield to the Falcon. And you're going to see that guy in a movie coming up soon, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So that's convenient. And as for the shield itself, we needed an equipment to cost at least 3 so that you could bounce it off 3 targets. Some of the coolest equipment and most played equipment in Commander are the original swords that showed up in the Mirrodin sets. Sword of War and Peace, super awesome card. I think I may have made that card back in New Phyrexia, but anyway, the title was the perfect thing to try to map onto Cap.
I mean, like when you think of an equipment, War and Peace, look at the lighting on that shield too. Like that is phenomenal. It really brings the epic and like I kind of like out of this world abilities of that shield, right? Like I just love seeing the renaming of it to Shield of War and Peace. I wasn't sure how likely that would be, but like to see that on the board, that was super sweet.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to our next character. So we have one of the more interesting designs, I think, in this drop, which is Black Panther.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Aaron, from what I understand, there was a lot of really interesting discussion around how to bring Black Panther to Magic.
Yeah, including, his name is Black Panther. Should he be, black in Magic? When we have Magic cards with colors in their titles, the obvious And usually most correct thing to do is make the card that color, because otherwise it's just kind of a strange pairing of title and color identity, which we can avoid, making cards within the Magic universe, but wasn't a good fit here exactly.
Right, yeah. I remember thinking the same way, that when I saw like white-green or green-white, I was like, oh. But the more you think about it, like T'Challa as a character, he's a leader. He's trying to focus on growth and, sustaining a nation, caring for his people, leading his people. So it really does make sense, the colors.
We had actually tried a couple of designs with black mana in the cost. There was one where he was 3 colors. There was one where he was black-green hybrid with white. We were leaning into, we were digging deep in the history. He was the King of the Dead for a run in the comics. I was trying to figure out if there's a way to frame isolationism, how he ruled Wakanda and kept it secret from the rest of the world, or kept all of their riches secret from the rest of the world as a selfish act. Our playtesters just bounced off that right away every single time. Like, this character's not evil, this character's not black, he's not... Okay, change, won't do it, went with green-white. As for what the card does, I mean, there will be at least one other Black Panther card as we go through this partnership that captures more of him as an elite fighter, or what his suit does, absorbing energy and things like that. Wanted to go a little different route here for something that might be a commander, as opposed to just a butt kicker. So the prompt that I gave myself was, how do you design a card for someone who rules the kingdom that has the most valuable natural resource in the world? Which is, a strange prompt for a creature. And after about 6 or 7 tries of writing these abilities out, shortening them down, trying to get them to fit on a card, when the templating and editing happened, it would always end up 3 times longer than I wanted for what the flavor was going to capture. Changed it, got to this. So the counters on the lands as your creatures come into play represent the kind of vibranium that's in the ground. Then you can spend energy mining that vibranium and then buffing up your creatures, kind of giving them better stats. You gain life, you draw cards. It does all the wonderful things that this incredible resource can do. And yeah, there's a lot of little tricky things you can do with this ability in the game.
I thought that's such a good use of the mechanic. Like, I think you nailed it about the mining of the resource, sharing technology, sharing resource, powering, lifting up. I think that's a really good fit for the card.
I am so sorry in advance. I totally just want to take all these counters and put out Inkmoth Nexus. There's going to be so many creature lands I want to play with, and this is such a cool design for a 2-mana card, right? This is going to not just be fully a lands deck. It needs to be a land deck that also makes tokens or just more bodies, right? To really take advantage of counters. And there's numerous ways you can play with that. And I really like that. But the main one is Inkmoth Nexus and whatever else I need to justify it.
All right, well, talking about building a deck around this card, let's see Black Panther's support cards, including a cool token. This one comes with an additional token.
Oh, yeah.
Warrior.
Comic book claw. That's so
good. All right. Aaron, what's your favorite in this part?
My favorite is, I think it's the Karn's Bastion reskin as Wakandan Skyscraper. It benefits you to put your vibranium across a whole bunch of different lands or move it onto a whole bunch of different creatures so that then you can proliferate to generate even more resources. And I love, across the drop, again, much like Cap, where we have a history thing going on with World War II and the modern times, we have the Bronze Age with Secure the Waste. That's the very first Black Panther. That's Bashenga back, I don't know how many thousand years BC, as the first Black Panther, finding the vibranium that ends up being the centerpiece of the Kingdom of Wakanda, all the way to the Afrofuturist architecture that you see on Karn's Bastion / Wakandan Skyscraper, which is the way the world that setting looks now to fans who are familiar with the comics and the Black Panther movies.
Yeah. We did have a little discussion before the panel about which was the deepest cut, the first Black Panther or the Invaders. I think we landed on the Invaders because they had Toro, but
Yeah.
I think the Invaders is still pretty deep, but it is cool to see Claw, right?
Oh,
Claw,
yes.
claw.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that card. That was another one where, upon seeing the artwork for the first time, the way that they actually used the underneath the like text box to finish the blast that Black Panther's deflecting from Claw, like the usage of the whole card space, it hit me that it was like, man, this is a Magic artist that is using the, I don't want to say limitations, but the requirements of card artwork. Like you have, you put the main stuff in this box, but you need to do art for the, like the considerations that you have when you're making card artwork. This was just such a great example. Like the silhouette is clear, it reads from, you know, at scale, but then it also has all of that really cool detail of the foreshortening of the sound waves like rippling into the text box. It was like, oh, it's so cool to see. So creative. And
Yeah.
using every single inch of the space. It was,
It is the perfect depiction of how it feels when I'm about to board wipe, and then it gets heroic. Like the heroic intervention. This is what you think of when
Yes.
you think
Yeah.
of like a superhero card.
the middle of an
So-
action happening and deflection.
yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Any other favorites on this drop here?
I mean, you know, Aaron kind of mentioned it already, but I'm going to mention it again. I think that it was an overarching theme in the Secret Lair set. Again, we were talking about like boiling down a character to their essentials. Like if we only have 5 or 6 cards to summarize an entire character, what do we do? So I think first of all, you know, the character cards have been great, and the fact that, you know, we saw it with Sam, and we saw it, you know, like showing the lineage and the legacy that these characters are not necessarily, Black Panther is not just T'Challa, it's also Shuri, it's also Bashang, there's ancestry. Captain America is not just Steve Rogers, it's Sam, it's Bucky. These are mantles that have been passed. And so I think that the fact that that's been acknowledged in these drops is a really cool feature that was very intentional and really summing up like what these characters are as a whole.
Yeah.
That's just so neat.
And we're actually going to see some really cool mantle passing in our next drop as well. Let's first bring up Wolverine, the best there is. This card is, I obviously, a lot of Wolverine fans. Amanda, what strikes you about this card?
Oh my gosh. So, I mean, I feel like all of us just got like a little, when you say the Wolverine, like he's, you know, as somebody that works on the Marvel brand, you know, it's been really cool to see the X-Men show up in the sort of global zeitgeist a little bit more with the success of X-Men 97, with Deadpool and Wolverine, the new season of X-Men 97 on the way. You know, the X-Men are starting to like pop up, and we get to like play in that pond again.
Yeah.
Because for so long, for like the past 10 plus years, like we've been all Avengers. It's been great. There's been so much to chew on and explore in the Avengers side of the pond, and the X-Men have kind of been a little dormant. And so the fact that we're able to like start playing with those again in this set and in this partnership to really feature the X-Men and dig in there, like, ooh, it's so refreshing. It's so fun.
Yeah, if you had told teenage me that the Avengers were cooler than the X-Men at any point in the future, I'd have never believed you. Like the X-Men, when I was growing up, were like the thing in comic books. Everyone loved them. You know, they kind of represent that the teenage angst really well of not fitting in but feeling special, and the Xavier School and all that other stuff. And Wolverine was like the guy. I think he was the most popular character Marvel had for, you know, up until, you know, the MCU kicked off. And we started working on this card even before we knew there was a Deadpool and Wolverine movie, so it's pretty serendipitous that we had him here, and he's kind of back in the spotlight again. But here he is. He is a murder machine that is hard to kill himself. On the mechanics, at the bottom, we have Regenerate, which is a word that fits Wolverine super well, but not a mechanic that we use at all, honestly. We don't use it at all ever in Magic these days. It's pretty complicated and weird. We have so many better ways now of showing a creature that's hard to kill. But, we're going for authenticity here, trying to put the right words on the cards, and this was the perfect time to bring that back. And then at the top, the unrivaled lethality. Normally that would take another sentence to write. That's a longer template. If Wolverine would deal damage, instead he deals twice, whatever. I don't like that. I said to my editor, I don't like that. It's too long and unwieldy. Can we come up with some other way to say that? And they worked on it for a while, and I think we have a new template now for this ability. It's a lot shorter. It's a lot punchier. I think it's a lot cooler. So thank you, Wolverine, for giving us the impetus to clean up this template. You should be seeing it in Magic a little bit more going forward, looking like this.
You didn't want to get the whole line?
Best there is. Oh, yeah. Right, so he's got a really cool catchphrase. It's
best there is at what I do, but what I do isn't very nice.
Yeah.
Which I think that you could, I don't know how you would fit that on there.
That would not fit on a card title.
Yeah, you can't cover the art. You have to.
How does he even say that while he's jumping and doing an action shot? Like, you think about how weird that actually is to say while you're jumping. It's kind of a sweet. I don't think
he's a very skilled fellow.
No, he's fast. He's very fast at hockey.
I do want to stay with this card for a sec, Krim, because regenerate is not a word we've used in a long time. What was your reaction to seeing that word on this card?
I'm not gonna lie to you. I was very shocked that we saw regenerate. I hadn't seen that since middle school, so I just thought that was done away with. So again, to see it come back showed that the flavor was there. Y'all really focused on the flavor here, because if you're willing to bring that back, white, red, blue, red, white, blue, right? All the details are there, and as someone who really loves just seeing the attention to detail in these kind of things, seeing that just gave me a lot of faith in the product itself. So
yeah.
I'll look at the type line real quick. So all three of these characters so far have had hero on them. That's a type that was in Magic way back in the day, Alpha, talking forever ago. We had retired it, but that's something we want to kind of focus in on with this Marvel's products. That's going to matter a lot more as the rest of these products roll out. And then here, Wolverine, Mutant, it's perfect. We already have that in Magic. Didn't really mean this, in Ikoria or whatever else or the Simic or whatever. They don't mean Wolverine, but there's going to be some cool, synergy between him and some of those cards, thanks to his creature type.
All right, that's a rare hint on this Marvel partnership here. But let's take a look at the rest of Wolverine's support in this drop. Yeah, that's.
Oh.
All right. Krim, I can feel you jumping out of your seat, so why don't you go first?
I don't even know where to start with this. First off, Berserk, getting a reprint on its own, that's pretty cool for me. And then on top of that, see the John Byrne suit. And coming out of a Sentinel's mouth, that is a super badass action shot.
It's so funny, that card in particular, that as we were reviewing sketches for artwork, of course the first pass was great, but we're no, if we're doing Berserk and it's Wolverine, over the top, more, smoke, sparks, he was doing something amazing, but we're no, he should punch his way out of a Sentinel's face.
That's right.
How can we we kept hyping each other up, one-upping, how can we make this as over the top as possible?
And it comes through in the art, right? You're seeing the steam kind of come out of the Sentinel's mouth, so this is fresh,
yes.
The Sentinel was just slain.
Yes, so, I can hear the Hugh Jackman screaming in my head.
Yeah. And then as someone who got into who knew of Laura Kinney through X-Force, seeing X-23 again continuing the passing of the mantle tradition as you saw in the other layers, to see Laura Kinney here in the Danger Room practicing with Logan, that's so cool to me. And I mean, I'm sorry, I'm going to go right to the far right over there and talk about the Ozolith reprint. Just as a Magic player, I love seeing the Ozolith reprinted, but then on top of that, this is to represent and indicate the Weapon X program. And that just got me thinking as I was sitting there when I saw this, about the numerous different cards in Magic that are silly creatures that I don't know. Imagine just a squirrel or Miss Bumbleflower going through the Weapon X program. The idea, this is now Miss Bumbleflower with adamantium attached to her body. Like, yeah.
What
yeah,
have we
do that.
done?
I guess, yeah, why not? Put Snapcaster in there. Let's see what we can throw into the Weapon X program. So,
Yeah, that was a really sweet comics run. It was a really seminal story came out in the 90s, I think, by an artist and writer named Barry Windsor Smith. It was the talk of the comic shop at that time. It kind of gave you a peek behind the scenes of like, how did this guy end up with metal on his bones? Like, he has claws, he has a healing factor, that's his mutant ability, but like the metal bones, that's not a thing you're born with. So where did that come from? And this did a great job of explaining it, and they went on to capture parts of it in the movies, the old Fox movies.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, that art captures the vibe of it super well, including the little glare over his.
Strategic.
Yeah.
Strategic glare.
I had to ask about that too, because like so many points in Wolverine's like arcs and stories, you just see him running around. He's pretty much always nude. So it's like, well,
We had to get that in the drop somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He had to be shirtless on at least one card.
Very important. Yes.
That glare is so conveniently placed.
It's amazing. But yeah, I love the nod to Weapon X. Again, these are summarizing our characters' like whole journey from beginning, their prime, passing mantle, like all of it. It's just a really great summary of the character. It's a lot of fun.
All right. Well, let's move on to the best character, in my
Wow.
opinion. In my
Very
opinion, we have Iron Man, my favorite Marvel character.
I see. I know you play blue. You mentioned earlier.
Yes,
So
I am a
there's
blue player
little-
through and through, so I'm delighted to see Tony Stark as blue-red. But yeah, I've been reading Iron Man comics for a long time. Huge fan of Tony Stark and the ingenuity. So
You liked Iron Man
I'm-
before Iron Man was cool?
What's that?
You liked Iron Man before
I
Iron Man
liked
was cool?
Iron Man before Iron Man was cool. I
That's
did.
legit.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, let's start. You know, Krim, because this card is just wild in its design. Walk us through what this evokes for you.
I mean, this is, at first you have a 5-mana, 4/4 flying, like haste, right? So,
Yeah.
all right, that's pretty solid. Let's see where this goes. And then it goes into like a birthing pod style effect, which allows you to essentially sacrifice any artifact, dig through your deck, and then add an artifact with a +1 mana value to it. So to see that attached to Iron Man, let's not lie here. We know artifacts can do pretty much a lot of things in Magic. So to see this and attached to Tony, it perfectly captures the ingenuity of
Yeah.
Tony.
Yeah.
So to see this and then see the treasure token, like I love everything that. Normally I'm not an artifact lover, but for Tony Stark, I will love artifacts.
Yeah.
Just because of how cool this will be, and I'm gonna try to attach random things to Tony as well. Like this is where I'm gonna put like the exoskeleton from like the Phyrexian one, and I'm gonna just add all sorts of random equipments because I see it as a Voltron deck, but I could totally see this being built numerous different ways just because of what all the things that artifacts can cover.
Yeah. Well, I love the treasure, the nod to how rich he is. Just make Iron Man and his millions. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the treasure tokens.
yes.
It comes with a treasure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like on top of that, the action shot of where you see the armor flying to him.
Right.
That's just exactly what I want to see in the art
Yeah.
as well.
Where he's got a little businessman arm.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know.
Side.
This one's so fun because, like, in contrast to Black Panther, where he has a certain color scheme in costume, but then a certain mana color scheme in character, this is one where it actually just really lines up in a really synergistic way because, like, power and control are such what the character can embody, and I mean, that's red blue if I've ever.
And Aaron, he has an interesting type line. He's a legendary artifact.
Yeah. We went back and forth on this so many times, and we're still talk about it to this day. Like, is he an artifact creature? Ultimately, the decision was like, if you had a shatter, and you were fighting Iron Man, would you take him out? Yeah. So if you shatter Iron Man in the middle of combat, you win. So it made sense for us to put that type on here. So yeah, armored characters in the Marvel Universe, expect to see that type line on them.
Yeah. My headcanon is this is during the Extremis era, where he like pretty much literally was
Oh yeah, sure.
an artifact creature.
Yeah.
My headcanon. I don't think but that's where I'm going with it. Let's see Iron Man's supports, including that treasure token, which is a fantastic.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There
Yeah.
Some Soul Ring fans among us.
Amanda, I know one of your favorites in this entire Super Drop is in this one.
Yes, I mean, we all clapped. The Soul Ring, it's so good. That was one of the first cards that again, I keep saying this, but one of the first cards I saw was that Soul Ring sketch with the arc reactor, and it hit me. That's just one of the best overlays of the two creative lores. That's when I knew that this team knew what they were talking about. They knew Marvel, they knew magic. It just makes sense in a very pleasing way.
They're both round.
Just
Right, the Soul Ring is like the
symbolically,
quintessential power source in Magic. Everyone's familiar with it, especially through Commander these days. And the arc reactor is
a quintessential power source.
absolutely for Marvel.
Yes, and I love Commander's Plate. Didn't even need to rename it. It's just, it is what it is. It's a perfect overlay, a perfect fit, like a glove. Just.
I think that the Commander's Plate specifically, looking at that armor, the hardest part I have to imagine when it comes to anything with Iron Man is how do you choose which armor, right?
Yeah.
Because Iron Man's got over like a billion armors, and that armor looks to me closer to like the Bleeding Edge one from the Matt Fraction run where it's obviously possible. The armor comes out of Tony's pores, essentially. And I'm like, okay, sure, I'm here for it. It's cool, I'll take it.
Yeah.
And I like the way that looks. So it gives me that Bleeding Edge armor with a little bit of like the classic Iron Man, where the red and yellow is.
Yeah.
So I also am a huge fan of that, and the Galvanic Blast, because you'll never guess, but on that same Marvel vs. Capcom team, it was Iron Man, Cap, and then Gambit, right? So those are the three that I always had. And, Repulsor Blast, that's the one thing everybody loves, the Repulsor Blast, the Unibeams, all of those from Tony. So to see that captured on a card and to have it also tie specifically to artifacts, because having a Galvanic Blast, Metalcraft, all of it is just everything as a Magic and an Iron Man lover is all about, and very happy to see.
Yeah, and Aaron, I'm noticing here. So we've renamed a few cards in this drop to better fit with the characters. There's not that here. What was the card selection like for Iron Man that made that easier?
The words just worked out. I mean, we talked about renaming Commander's Plate as Iron Man Armor Mark, whatever that one happened to be. But our creative writers, and kudos to them, they are also neck deep in Marvel fandom and have been rereading every comic book ever printed using the Unlimited app and going as deep as possible, trying to find all the right stuff. They're awesome to work with. They just thought, no, that this Commander's Plate, Tony Stark is a commander, he's got armor, let's just stick with it. It really works. Inventor's Fair, the Stark Expo is that. It just worked super well. We did have to rename Soul Ring, right? But my funny story is with the treasure token. So the design, we wanted him to make a treasure, as Krim said, or Blake said. He's super wealthy. That's just a key component of his character. So it was okay, we're going to make a treasure that goes with Iron Man. What should this illustration be? And my answer was just money, just the big pile of money. That's Iron Man's treasure.
A black credit card.
Yeah, right. That was actually another answer. It was okay, no, we don't want to do money. How about a credit card? Maybe he's got a Stark Industries credit card. That didn't really read right. It looked like an ID card or something. Then I was okay, it should be missiles. He's an arms dealer. That didn't stand by itself particularly well. It was a little too aggro.
Not necessarily his pride and
not the
joy.
vibe we're going for. So they went with the the armor, the helmet, the mask, which if you ever come across this treasure now at any other point in the future, you'll know immediately it goes with Iron Man, which was not the case for Giant Pile of Money.
All right, let's move on to our last character, and I know this one has excited a lot of people. Both because this is an incredibly powerful Magic card, but also, Amanda, this is an incredibly powerful character.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, it's been amazing to see, I mean, all of our characters, but especially Storm, come to life in Magic. And I mean, this artwork in particular like blows me away. So when it comes to comics and everything, there's so much that is about speed when it comes to creating artwork. Like, you know, we need the next issue tomorrow. We need the next issue next week. The pipeline is very brisk. The artists are very talented, but due to the amount of speed that, you know, these sorts of mediums require, even other games, it requires more, you know, line art, inking, coloring as a standardized process for making comics. But due to the pipeline that Wizards has allowed themselves to build over the years, the Magic card artwork is so beautiful, detailed, grandiose. Every single Magic card has the attention of detail of like a cover. Like, we are able to sit with the artwork for longer. The artists have more time and get to really elevate these characters in such a powerful way that every single piece of artwork is just amazing. Like, I don't even know there's another word to say it. It's incredible to see these characters take on a whole different life and a whole different perspective in this.
I actually think Magali, who painted this, has a time-lapse video on social media of her creating it. It's really incredible.
Yeah. Now, Aaron, obviously, the card says Storm in the text box, which seems pretty obvious, but how did you all arrive at this design?
You just said it. It's called Storm. I'll start with the character. It was important for us to, when we were picking the 5, to not just pick like the MCU headliners. Like, we didn't want this to feel like it's a super drop about movie characters. We wanted it to feel like, no, it's Marvel, it's the comics, it's the full breadth of them. Turns out Wolverine ended up being in a movie, like I said before, but Storm is not. So Storm was super popular, like I said, with the X-Men when I was growing up. She's showing up in the X-Men '97 cartoon. But she's a lot of people's favorite character. She represents so many things, you know, the strength, the power. She's an Omega level mutant. A great, you know, just she makes for great Magic cards. That said, you know, Secret Lair is a love letter to both Marvel and to Magic, and so when we have a powerful keyword mechanic like Storm and the card's named Storm, the first gut impetus as a designer is like, can we marry these somehow into something that makes sense? So we went with red, green, and blue. Those are the colors of weather phenomena cards in Magic. You know, all the earthquakes and hurricanes and tidal waves and whatnot. Again, Storm could be, you could easily see her as a very white character, just through her nobility, her leadership. But we want to show, you know, full fury of Storm, going ham on everybody up in the sky. And those also happen to be the, you know, colors that work really well with the Storm mechanic. So yeah, we tried to tie in a way where she gives things Storm. We tried a few different options. This one initially had it where you just had to attack. Our playtester said, come on now, that's way too good. So we gave the defending player a little bit of an out if they can stop her from hitting you, either with her removal spell or a blocker. But the upside on this card is still crazy, as I'm sure Krim is itching to tell us about here.
Well, I just more so like that when I think of Storm, I think of a player that's not really going to attack me, and I'm going to know when I'm going to lose, and it's going to be at the, you know, like 30 turns later, right? Maybe not that long, but I'm just happy to see that Storm still tied into combat, and made combat matter
Yeah.
for you to get to Storm off.
Yeah.
And so, because that is not normally an archetype that you think of like like related or associated at all with combat. So that's pretty cool on the design end to make that all kind of come together.
Yeah.
Yeah, kudos to our casual play design team for putting a lot of hours in on this one.
Yeah, and Aaron, I don't know if this was a coincidence or if it was intentional, but I've also seen some people really pleased that Storm's stats and casting cost are really similar to Lightning Angel, a pretty classic Magic card, which should be enough.
I had not put the 2 and 2 together like that. I just think those are like, you know, kind of perfect numbers for a card you want to be at a certain power level. We don't want her dying to her own lightning bolts, so she needs to have a little bit of toughness. But yeah, that is true. Those do match. She is in many ways a lightning angel, and you know, if you want to look at it that way. But yeah, it's a happy coincidence.
And she boosts Mill. I cannot wait to cast like a massive Tasha's Hideous Laughter or something after. So this is probably one of the more powerful ones, and I'm very excited to build another Mill deck. So I am very excited for this.
All right.
Mill.
Yeah, Teamer Mill.
Okay.
Aaron mentioned her Lightning Bolt. I think that is our cue to look at Storm's support cards, which of course include.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one.
That's the deep cut on the Magic side of things. Yeah.
That is. I mean,
All right. Krim, what strikes you immediately in this set of support cards?
that Storm is the best dressed character.
Yes,
Well, I mean,
right?
The fits are
Right.
Obviously.
Every single outfit's great.
Yeah. You see all of Storm's outfits throughout the years. That I just don't know how she always does that. But
She's an icon. That's
yeah. Oh, you know what? That's fair. That's she really is. And specifically, the Ice Storm. That's the Storm I know because I knew of Storm from X-Men '97 as a kid. So again, a lot of what I love about Marvel is it is a tied universe. So you see other characters throughout Marvel's world when you're reading the comics. And I'm glad that y'all brought that to the Secret Lair as well, because if you look at Ice Storm behind her, behind Storm, you can still see Colossus. You see the rest of the X-Men. And I just really like that detail for just what Marvel is and seeing it on a Magic card. So those Easter eggs, they do add. They add.
Yes, I do personally love the costume tour through the ages. Because, I mean, it's so funny. We were talking about, like, passing mantles, and then we have Storm, who is just Storm. And so her through the ages is a wardrobe tour.
That's right.
But it's so stunning. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It feels like this is just another one that overlays
Yeah.
one lightning bolt. Of course, they all just make sense.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about the art on Ice Storm, but Aaron, how did you land on Ice Storm ending up in this drop?
I don't know. That one's a little personal pet thing. Like, I love it when we can go way deep and find stuff that people weren't expecting. And Ice Storm is a card from Alpha, just green Stone Rain. Simple enough. Like, for some reason, they made 2 Stone Rains in Alpha. One was red, one was green. We hadn't reprinted it since then. It's been allowed to be reprinted. It's certainly simple and understandable enough. We've made other green land destruction spells, but somehow this one has just sat there and never, ever, ever, ever been reprinted. And it's not like we don't print Stone Rains in Magic sets these days. That's not really a fun play pattern, so I could never get it into an actual card set. So it was just like, can we finally do it? Like, it's called Ice Storm, it's Storm. You can copy it with her in Commander. It'll be fun, right? I think, maybe. Yeah, so I appreciate that they gave me this outlet to finally create a reprint of this card for the first time since 1994 or whatever, when Unlimited came out.
Yeah, Armageddon's fine if you have to work for it.
You got to work for it. That's right.
I also really love the Jessica's Will renamed for Aurora. shows her power, shows who she is. That one is, and besides just being a very powerful Magic card, like fits perfectly into this drop.
I can't tell you how many times when you see Manamorphose and it's against a Storm deck, you know it's over. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Like it's like, oh, I'm about to get cooked.
Yeah, Manamorphose, that's an interesting one. That is like the go-to Storm deck card that everyone knows from playing it in Modern or anywhere else, various Storm decks. But that name doesn't really work for Marvel or for Storm, the character. So we had to try to come up with something. And this was the Aurora. If you don't know, Aurora Munro is Storm's secret identity. I don't even know if it's actually secret, but that's her non-superhero name. So when our creative writers came up with Aurora Borealis, I was like, that's really cool. I don't know if Marvel's going to go for it, but you guys did.
Yeah, it's clever, it's fun. Like, we love to have fun.
Great. Yeah, so that's my favorite name in this whole thing.
All right. We've only got a few minutes left, and if you're sitting down, I know Riley emphasized this a bunch. Everybody have your ticket? Your little ticket? Okay. Hold on to that because our next slide shows you a little bit about what you're going to get. So, folks at New York Comic Con last week got one of these comic books with these alternate covers. For everyone who has one of those tickets, you can head down to the merchandise pickup on level 1, hand them that ticket, and they will give you one of those comics with these exclusive covers. So it's our little thanks for coming to this panel. Hopefully, so the Counterspell promo card, which, first of all, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, first off, that you could use those comic books as a commander if you wanted. Like, that's what I would do. It's going to take up half your playmat, but like, whatever. Also, that counterspell, let's talk about that counterspell. Why don't we?
Let's talk about it.
Who is that fella on there? Oh, weird. Yeah, that's Doctor Strange. So I love that counterspell, and I don't know who better to have on a counterspell than Doctor Strange himself, right? So thank you for putting him on there so I can fanboy over that for like the next rest of my life. So
it's honestly also one of my favorite cards. So simple, so good. The art is beautiful. When I held that card in my hand, I actually got overwhelmed and emotional.
You were tearing up a little bit.
I did.
Yeah,
I did. I mean, my stepdad taught me how to play Magic, and it became a family bonding thing, and he always played blue, and to be able to hold the very first Magic Marvel card in my hand that we were able to make, it all became real. This little girl playing Magic all of a sudden had a hand in this, and I got to hold it in real life, and woo. Anyway.
As a Blue Mage, a Doctor Strange fanboy, I share those exact.
It's just everything. Yeah.
It's funny. I had the exact same reaction to the comic books.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that our teams were working on those specific executions where like the card text is going to be on the cover of a Marvel comic book. Yeah. So when they opened the box at New York Comic Con, said we're handing these out. I was like, what is this? What? It was unbelievable.
You realize what we just said? The Marvel person was like, a Magic card, and the Marvel person
that's right.
the Magic person,
that's how it's been the whole time.
And they are actual comic books.
Yeah.
These are the real comic books, just variant covers.
If you dare to take the shrink wrap off, there's an actual comic book inside.
Yes.
Yeah.
Trust me. I'm not saying whether you want to do that or not, that's up to you.
Now the promo counterspell, hopefully you've already gotten one of those in a swag bag somewhere. So if you didn't spot it and you got a goodie bag, I would rifle through there and make sure that you have it. Let's show another thing. So as I said, the drop is going to go on sale on November 4th. Before we get to the details on that, this is going to be a purchase promo. If you spent for every $199 that you spend, so if you double that, if you spend $109 in the same order, so not spread over multiple orders, you will get one of these. So if you spend $398 or more, you will get two of these, and so on math. So This one's really, we haven't even gotten a chance to talk about this one. It's incredibly iconic.
Yes, arcane signet as the Avengers A on the Avengers
Yeah.
Tower.
It's perfect.
Earth's mightiest emblem, I believe it's called.
Yep. Earth's mightiest emblem. So that is the purchase promo. And then let's go to the next one. So again, the price of these $39.99 for the regular, $49.99 for the foil edition. The sale begins November 4th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. You will probably want to be in line at that point on the Secret Lair website. You can also sign up on secretlair.com to get notified of this in case you're forgetful or just want to make sure you're doubly notified to get in this because you're going to want to be in that queue. Well, before we go, I want to thank all of you for joining us for this panel. I want to thank all of you for sharing so much information about this exciting partnership and drop with all of these fine people. Before we go, though, just one last reminder: this is the start of the Marvel partnership.
Yes.
And we've already announced this, but we're already very excited about the next step, which is Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Spider-Man. Yep, we got a full booster set headlined by everyone's favorite wall crawler coming out next fall. It's going to be amazing.
Venom?
Oh my gosh, you have no idea what's in store. It's been just a dream, a thrill. Ooh, I can't wait.
All right. Thank you, everyone.